It's the off season. We're starting our deep dives. Brought to you an expert today, Jacob Milham, writer for Inside the Royals, co-host of the Royals Rundown podcast. We're going to talk all things Kansas City. Let's get after it.
You are Locked On MLB Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yes, welcome on in to Locked On MLB Prospects, your home for all things minor league baseball. I'm your host, Lindsey Crosby, baseball writer and podcaster. Thank you for making this your first listen every single day. And like I said, we've got Jacob Milham here with us, writer for Inside the Royals, co-host of the Royals Rundown podcast, and just expert of all things Kansas City. And Jacob, I have to ask, do you think that Bobby Witt Jr. was the fourth best rookie in the American League? Because there's been a little bit of conversation back and forth about that.
I'm a little biased, but hey, I gotta give my flowers where I can. Julio Rodriguez won. He should have been unanimous. That Baltimore Orioles writer robbed him of that unanimous distinction. Look, I honestly had Bobby at number 3, and I had Adley at number 4. I was not a look. So my local minor league team is actually the Norfolk Tides, where Adley Rutschman played for quite a while. I didn't find him that impressive. Honestly, I didn't. I really liked Steve Kwan. Loved him.
Steve
Kwan
I might
have just lost you a whole bunch of listeners saying that, Lindsey.
No, there's like prospectors, know that it's so hard to quantify what a catcher does. Yeah. And it's so hard. It's so hard to when you make the case for a catcher next to somebody else, it's so hard to kind of figure out, what exactly is because of the catcher, what is not because of the catcher. We don't have any good stats for it. We've tried to do things like catcher independent ERA and stuff like that. It doesn't quite work. And I'm sure you probably had to deal with this too, because you guys have a pretty impressive rookie catcher in MJ Melendez, who, played all over, whether it was catching, obviously, in place of Salvador Perez, DHing, played in the outfield. So let's start our conversation with Kansas City in the infield and the outfield with MJ Melendez. Obviously, Salvador Perez is not going anywhere. Is playing MJ Melendez in the outfield sustainable? Is that something that he can actually not only do it, but can thrive out there? Or was that just a way to get his bat in the lineup?
I really just think it's a way to get the bat in the lineup consistently, because before he came up to Kansas City, you could have counted the amount of times he had played away from catcher on 2 hands. And that included times that he was playing third base. The Royals organization tried to plug in MJ Melendez wherever they could. And honestly, there are several decent, I'm not saying amazing, but decent outfield prospects in this Royals organization that could be in the left field spot. Now, would I rather see MJ out in the field, Vinnie Pasquantino, a designated hitter, and then Salvi behind the plate? Yes. But, Salvador Perez, he's not going to be an everyday catcher anymore. That's the reason why the Royals promoted a catcher named Freddie Fermin. Really, he made his MLB debut this past season and did all right. He did okay. But health at the catcher position is a big thing for the Kansas City Royals. So getting back to your question, though, I don't think it's sustainable. I really don't. He's a heck of an athlete, but he is, at the end of the day, your catcher of the future, at least for the time being. You know how it ebbs and flows in MLB. I think you just need to get him more looks at catcher and not try to force him to be something he's not.
And especially when you have so many options as far as guys that can play the infield, can play the outfield. I think about guys like a Hunter Dozier. Ryan O'Hearn just got re-signed, which was a little bit surprising to me when I saw that. And from his tweet was surprising to him too, about how people felt about it.
Yes.
And I think that's a good place to go, because people who listen to this podcast know that we are huge Vinnie Pasquantino fans around here. I have him as one of the breakout hitters of 2023, may contend for a batting title Vinnie Pasquantino staying over here. And so you've got Vinnie Pasquantino, you've got Nick Pratto, who is the better defender at first for whatever that's worth. And then you've got Ryan O'Hearn. How do you make playtime for all three of these guys? Is it like you said, is Pasquantino better suited to the DH role? And is not being in the field gonna impact his offense? Or how do you work this out in the infield?
So I want to present it to you like this today, trying to make sure I'm tracking all the new additions to the 40-man roster, make sure I'm got all my ducks in a row. Scrolling through MLB.com, 40-man roster, Royals, boom, you got pitchers, infield, outfield. Go down all the way to the bottom. There's a section, designated hitter. I've honestly never seen that for a team before, but designated hitter, one person, Vinnie Pasquantino for the Kansas City Royals. So look, he's a competent first baseman. I would argue more than competent defensively.
Right.
I think his glove has come a long way. It's probably about average for MLB level, but that's still that's a lot better than what it was.
Yeah.
Pratto is your first baseman of the future. It really is. If for the Royals listeners out there, if you want someone to compare him to, it's Eric Hosmer. All right. You got the bat, you got the athleticism, the defense right there, and you want to see Pratto there consistently like Hosmer was. Do you remember Billy Butler, Lindsay? You remember that name?
I remember Billy Butler, yeah.
Vinnie Pasquantino is going to be the Billy Butler role. I'm not saying he's going to be the player, but probably that workload is going to be similar. And you ask any Royals fan out there, we were already moving on to 2023 without Ryan O'Hearn in our plans. Hopefully without Hunter Dozier on our plans, but the team knows wiser than us. They know better than us. Ryan O'Hearn, he is actually a fairly decent pinch hitter. For the latter half of 2022, he was one of the league's best pinch hitters. And so there is some value in that. And there's also just value in having the depth. Where you will start making fans mad is if you see him consistently in the lineup like we did for a certain time. But I think that's how it shakes out.
Yeah, and pinch hitting is an actual skill that not everybody is talented at, and that's something I think a lot of fans forget. And I'm guilty sometimes when I watch a game, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" But pinch hitting, coming in cold off the bench and being able to get a crucial hit in a crucial situation is very difficult, and not everybody can do it. And so if that's Ryan O'Hearn's role, then I think he'll do well. Obviously, the DH makes things a little bit different as far as how often you need pinch hitters, but still use for him on the roster. And the money's not too big if he ends up not making it. But talking about guys making it, when I look over this infield, you've got Michael Massey, you've got Bobby Witt Jr., obviously, you have Nicky Lopez, and then you have whatever you can get out of Adalberto Mondesi. So how do you find playtime for everybody in Kansas City when you've got, 2 or 3 first base options? You've got multiple options for short and third between Mondesi and Lopez and Bobby Witt. Like, who is the man out in this scenario?
So right now, in my opinion, the odd man out has to be Adalberto Mondesi.
You just can't count on him.
You can't, and that's the frustrating part, because at a certain time last year, seeing him, you were kind of seeing everything shake out. He was at third, Bobby Witt Jr. was at short, Nicky was at second. It was looking pretty good on the infield on paper. Now there were a lot of early season struggles, and then Mondesi not went and got injured, but he got injured, and it was kind of a lot of Royals fans throwing their hands up, because you see the talent, you see the skill, and you can see it all come together for flashes, and then something happens, and it's frustrating, and maybe he just needs a fresh start somewhere. Now, I'm not saying that he's not going to make this 40-man roster, because I think he does. I think he does provide some depth and a good start every, few games, but he's not going to be that 162 game guy that you really wanted him from. Now, I do have to say this. I'm a huge advocate for moving Bobby Witt Jr. to third base.
We are too.
I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
We absolutely have had the same thing. We've seen the defensive statistics. I've seen the eye test. And I think that when it comes to a top prospect, when they're in the minors, obviously everybody cares about the offense, cares about the hitting. And I think we maybe didn't do the due diligence required as to what Bobby Witt looked like at shortstop. And so, like, to me, and we've made this case before, move him to third base. It's something where I understand you lose a little bit of the value of having the great bat, the great offense, although he doesn't walk a ton, at third versus short, but he's a defensive liability at times at shortstop. And so with this team and with some of these pitchers that you have, you need a good defense behind you. And so we are on the same wavelength here, Jacob. We are moving Bobby Witt to third base. Love it. You'll still look great at third, Bobby, but we'll have to put you over there.
Exactly. And there's a lot of position players not a lot of position players, a lot of prospects at shortstop that I really love in this Royals organization. One of my guys to keep an eye on next year, which we'll talk about later, is a shortstop. Michael Garcia. He's got the pedigree. He's got the glove. Can he do it at the plate? I think that he is going to be a very steady shortstop for a major league team here before too long. And the list, if there is one spot that the Royals are pretty set at as far as infielders go, it is shortstop. Things are a little thin at third base. Things are kind of surprisingly thin at second base. And I know you can move people around, but right now, organic shortstops are plenty in this organization.
And the big thing when it comes to shortstops, obviously, that everybody kind of is a core competency you have to have is the defense. You have to feel safe in what that guy gives you. And if you have thought about making your home safe with home security, but you've been putting it off, listen up, because Simply Safe is the #1 rated home security system. And right now, Locked On MLB Prospects listeners can get those systems for 50% off. It's the biggest offer of the year. We know that over the holidays, property crimes like burglaries, package thefts, things like that spike nationally. That's why Simply Safe is having the 50% off sale now, so that your family can feel secure and safe this holiday season. Order your Simply Safe system for half off today. It is simplysafe.com/lockedonmlb. It's the biggest discount of the year. Again, that's simplysafe.com/lockedonmlb, because there's no safe like Simply Safe. Okay, so when we talk about needing a good defense and having a good defense, whether it's from your shortstops, whether it's from Simply Safe, people who really appreciate defense, to me, it feels like are pitchers. And when I look at this team, I know that there's some questions about whether your elder statesman or not comes back. And I think he's going to come back. But for the most part, this rotation is very young. It's a lot of guys that were drafted in that big pitching heavy 2018, right? The Brady Singer, the Daniel Lynch, the Chris Bubik, and things like that. And so plenty of young guys to pitch for a while. I wanted to ask you about some of the prospects behind them, because it feels like there's two kinds of prospects, of pitching prospects in the Royal system. There are the college pitchers that have some amazing pitch, but control issues. And then there's the younger prep pitchers that seem to be doing just fine right now, but they're very young. They're still 19 years old, 20 years old. They're a couple years away. Also, Lacy's a guy that obviously that's the one everybody thinks of. 2020 first rounder out of Texas A&M. He's got that wipeout slider, and he that kind of looks like a cutter in the fastball. Do you think that also Lacy has a chance to develop under this new coaching staff to the point where he can throw a pitch and know where it's going? Because it feels like that's kind of the big issue also Lacy has right now.
It is, and something that Lacy hasn't been able to get in during his time in Kansas City is just innings, just work. It's been one thing after another. It was the shoulder shut him down early, and then this past year it was his back that limited him. And those are two injury spots that you really don't want to see in such a young pitcher, especially. It's So, whenever you're hearing stuff from an organization, you got to take it with a grain of salt. They're going to be super optimistic about their guys and things like that. But Lacy himself said at the start of 2022, like, hey, this is the best my body has felt, and I'm feeling ready to go. Mitch Mayer, who is in the player development system for the Kansas City Royals, talked about it too. Quote, he's in the best spot he's been in a long time in that regard.
Best shape of his life. Love
Yeah,
those.
best shape of his life. It was great. And that was even after he stopped pitching in the 2022 season. So something's going on with the body, but it is when he is healthy and when he's on, it's hey, I'm going to be a frontline starter. But right now, he just something's not there, and I think it's mental. I think it's something with I don't want to say discipline, but the repetitiveness of pitching, like where you just have to get into that groove, and it's kind of, I don't want to say it's sad, but it has been frustrating to see how his 2022 season went. I mean, the guy only pitched 20 innings and he walked 28 guys.
Yeah,
and go ahead.
Sorry, his like for the listeners who are trying to figure out the context of his stuff to his control issues, 80, like what the 80, I think it's 80 career innings, 114 career strikeouts, 83 career walks. I mean, the stuff is amazing. The walk issues are real. He walked 12.6 guys per nine in AA Northwest Arkansas this year.
Yep.
So, I mean, gorgeous delivery, gorgeous movement to the pitches. I mean, 3 off-speed pitches that could all be plus pitches. Like you said, if everything's on, if everything hits, he's a number 1 pitcher. And we very, very rarely say that on the show unless your name's Andrew Painter. But just he's got to figure out the control and the delivery. And like you said, a lot of it feels like it's not physical. It's more so just he needs maybe just to embrace the role of a professional pitcher and the monotony and the routine. And if that's what it takes, hopefully that's what this next staff can instill in him.
Yeah, hopefully so. And something that the listeners have to take with a grain of salt is the Royals pitcher development team. Like, Lindsay, I really want you to sit and think about this. Can you think of a homegrown Royals pitcher not named Danny Duffy?
Okay. I genuinely do not think I can.
And that's the problem with this team. It's been over a decade since they've really developed like a top guy.
A frontline starter, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can argue your Donovan Ventura was one, tragically he's not with us anymore, but even he had a lot of issues with his actual pitching skill. So this has been a long issue, and hopefully it's something that is addressed at both the major league level and in the farm system, but fans are really hoping for some change under this new leadership.
Yeah, because there's a lot of guys that, to me, have a ton of promise, but just have to clean stuff up. Like Jackson Kowar has probably the best changeup in the system. Another one of those 2018 guys. He was out of Florida. I absolutely love the changeup. The 2-seamer, when it's on, they play really well together as long as he can keep it from just being dead straight. Jonathan Bolin came back from Tommy John sooner than I thought he was going to. He's got good size, good control, a lot of the stuff that you like. So a lot of these guys have these traits of like this glaringly amazing tool that a lot of pitchers don't have. And they just all kind of struggle to consistently throw strikes. And it feels like there's a very obvious solution here as far as development goes. And it's teach them how to throw strikes. It's just obviously easier said than done. If you had to put money on one of these pitching prospects, Lacy, Kowar, Bolin, maybe one of the prep pitchers like a Ben Kudrna or a Frank Mazzucato, if you had to put money on one of these prep pitchers coming up and panning out at the big league level, who would it be?
Look, this is long money, man, but I absolutely love Ben Kudrna. Got the chance to interview him on the Royals Rundown podcast last year. Great guy, and absolutely he went and he took care of business. And he's only 19 years old, so I know he's got a couple more years before he's going to be cracking the rotation. But you watch his stuff, and he commands a mound. He certainly kind of, as much as a pitcher can, he feels like he leads the game, like from pacing to counts to defense. I don't know. There's something about Ben Kudrna that has me very locked on.
And nice little pun there. Something that I liked about watching his 2022 is as the season went on, he was going deeper into games. I want to say like August and September, he was averaging like 5 or 6 innings a start, which for a 19-year-old is remarkable because obviously, one, first season in professional ball, but two, your prep seasons don't last nearly that long. And so he's showing that he can handle the bigger workload and he can go deeper. I mean, I think he threw 72 in the third innings. And so a guy that if I'm putting money on it, it's like it's probably him as well, or it's Jonathan Bolin, just because I like the combination of the control and the size and everything. If you want to put money on something, BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. They've got football, both pro and college. They've got basketball, both pro and college. They've got soccer. They've got esports. They've got it all at BetOnline.net. And what I love is they now have World Series futures for 2023. Jacob doesn't know I'm doing this, but I want you to guess what the Royals' odds are for the World Series. I'll preface it with saying that the Dodgers are the favorites and they're at like plus 250. So Royals for the World Series.
Plus 5,000.
Plus 10,000. They are tied with the Diamond. No. It's not the worst. They're tied with the Diamondbacks, Cubs, and Reds. And then behind them is Colorado at plus 12,500. And then Oakland, the Pirates, and the Nationals at plus 15,000. 10,000 to 1 odds. I will always drop $5 on a 10,000 to 1 odd anytime. If you want to do that, BetOnline.net's the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action because BetOnline is where the game starts. All right, we're here with Jacob Milham, writer for Inside the Royals, co-host of the Royals Rundown podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. You guys obviously spend a lot of time in one system. We are kind of generalists here at Locked On MLB Prospects. We cover 30 teams, 120 farm teams, and all of that. Yeah. So I kind of want to get from you a few names of minor leaguers that from inside the system that you've had your eye on that kind of pique your interest. And I'm going to give you some that from outside the system we've kind of seen and we kind of have our eyes on. I think starting off, I guess I'll go first to give you time to come up with it. But I'm thinking catcher Hayden Dunhurst. So 6th rounder in 2022 out of Ole Miss. I was lucky enough to watch him about 4 or 5 times in person in 2022's college season. And just one of the best defenders that I've seen in person in quite a while out of college. And I think that he kind of got done wrong by his pitchers and by his staff. If you go and you look, I remember a series against Texas A&M where like Texas A&M's like 9 for 9 on steals, and it's not his fault. He's got a pop time that's like 179. He's got quick hands and a good arm, but every ball he's getting is in the dirt or they have huge jumps because they're not getting held on. And so very good blocker, very good framer, especially low. The question's going to be offense. Like he has that high floor because he has just a good defense, but the question's going to be, can he get enough power production without having to pull everything? So someone that I saw him picked, I was happy he went to you guys. And if he can put together the offense, I think you've got more than just a backup catcher profile, but somebody that in 4 or 5 years can be the second catcher behind MJ Melendez, and you're trying to find ways to get them both in the lineup every day. Somebody who stood out to you as far as inside the system.
Man, there's quite a few. And look, we know I love my shortstop, so I'm going to go ahead and start there. Why not? Daniel Vasquez. He is an 18-year-old shortstop currently with the Columbia Fireflies, the team's low A affiliate. I really just watching him. So I live in Virginia. I actually traveled down to Columbia for a series, tried to actually see some of these prospects, and man, he just flies around the diamond. And he's not gonna hit it all over the park, not gonna lie, but he has stretches where he just gets on base a lot. And you want to see that out of your smaller shortstops, but he's got good defense, a cannon for an arm. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to move him to center field at some point because he has that speed, he has that twitch and that arm. But he is a guy who I think can climb the prospect ratings this upcoming year.
I like that. Not even in the top 30. That's why we bring on local experts to do this kind of stuff, because we get guys like that. That was great. Next guy that I have, somebody that I actually watched. I've actually interviewed him. Mason Barnett, right-hand pitcher, third rounder out of Auburn in the 2022 draft. I watched him in the regionals go up against UCLA and was absolutely untouchable. He's a fastball slider guy. That's his main go-to. He's got a change that he'll pull out against a lefty, and it's average to above average. And he's got a curveball that's kind of a get-me-over curveball, but he's got the mentality. He's got that mindset of, I'm not going to let you get on base. I'm going to take it personally. When you try to get on base, I'm not going to let you do it. And just the pitchability is definitely an asset. The thing is just getting the pitches to be on at the same time. When he's got everything locked in, combined with the pitchability, you have a guy that can absolutely put in MLB quality starts. It's just getting that refinement in on a Mason Barnett so that he can do it. But I think it was a great get for a third round pick. You have to be happy. A lot of third round picks have about a 40% chance of making the bigs. So I feel good about his chances, provided he stays healthy, obviously, and just works on not necessarily control, but just keeping himself locked in on the mound.
There you go. Hey, see, you're working in the locked on puns as well. I like it. I like it. I'll stick with guys on the mound here. I'm going to go with another later round pick. He was the Royals selected him in the 7th round of the 2021 MLB draft. Noah Cameron, a lefty who's currently with the High A Quad Cities River Bandits. The reason why I like him is in a system with so many pitchers that struggle with control and just have this electric stuff. Noah Cameron's kind of the opposite of that. He has pretty steady and very decent control. Not an amazing fastball. It sits in the lower 90s, but it does have good horizontal break on it, which makes things interesting. And it sets up an amazing changeup. Like, absolutely, it'll sit you down. It's something else. And he has been a steady presence for whatever team he plays on. I mean, his major league career started in 2022, and he made it up from rookie ball through Columbia and up to High A. So he's on a good trajectory. I'm not saying he's going to crack the rotation or make his debut this year, but I would keep an eye on him for the 2024 season.
Absolutely love it. Given that you're a shortstop guy and you wanted to go with a pitcher, I was wondering if we'd get an Austin Charles mentioned in there or not. It's one of those. I always love the two-way guys because you just wonder how long they can keep it going before they have to drop it.
I know.
Real quick question, something that was sent in to us by the listeners. Tampa Bay fans have suggested a 1-for-1 trade. Sorry to surprise you with this, but they propose their ace pitching prospect, Taj Bradley, for first baseman Vinnie Pasquantino straight up. Man. Yes or no?
Oh, 15 seconds. Let me think about it.
Because Bradley's pretty close to the majors. He got some time in AAA last year.
Oh, gosh, I'd say yes. I hate to say it. I'd say yes. And that's more of a team need. Right. But that is a tough position to be in because golly. But yeah, I'd say yes.
It's one of those, you've got so many first basemen. He's a stud pitcher who's closer rather than farther away. That's most of the development's already done. It's hard to say no to. I love it. All right, Jacob, tell folks where they can check out all your stuff, your writing, your podcast, all of that stuff.
So you can find it all on my Twitter at jmiltheham. Currently doing a lot of you see what I did there, but doing a lot of Royals, a lot of Chiefs content as well. But please go check out all the team's work at Inside Royals. An amazing team over there, just pushing out content. Editor Jordan Foote is he's really knowledgeable on everything, so I greatly appreciate him. If you want just my Royals content, you could follow the podcast at Royal Rundown Pod, and we're here for you, and we're always ready to chat.
I'm on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. Show is on Twitter at Locked On Farm. You can always email your mailbag questions into us, lockedonmlbprospects@gmail.com. Till tomorrow's show, this has been Locked On MLB Prospects.